Hello and welcome back to Timeless Wisdom. Have you ever found yourself sitting alone at home, reflecting on how life has unfolded? You poured your heart into raising your children, gave them your best years, and stood beside them through every trial and triumph. Yet now, somehow, it feels as if you've become a stranger in their world. Maybe it's the quiet distance that has crept in. Maybe it's the way their voices sound sharp, or how they forget special days, or simply never seem to have time for a quick call. It stings. There's no use denying it. There is nothing shameful about feeling that pain. When the children you nurtured make you feel overlooked or unappreciated, the hurt goes deep. It isn't just about being left out. It's the sense of fading into the background, becoming invisible in their busy lives. You might find yourself wondering, did I make mistakes? Do they still care? Or even harder to admit, am I simply no longer important to them? These questions can weigh heavily on your heart. But if you need to hear this today, let me remind you, you matter. You have always mattered, and you always will. Even during difficult times, you have the right and the ability to safeguard your own peace of mind, no matter how others behave. I know it's tempting to react when they speak to you with disrespect or ignore your messages. You may want to call them up and demand an explanation. You might feel the urge to lash out, to remind them of all you've done, every meal you cooked, every sacrifice you made, every night you stayed up worrying. And that reaction would be perfectly human. But here's the truth. Reacting from pain often hands over your power. You see, when someone hurts you, especially someone as close as a son or daughter, your emotions rise like a tide. Anger, sadness, betrayal. All of it floods in. And if you respond too quickly, you're not speaking from your strength. You're speaking from your wound. That kind of response might bring a moment of relief, but it usually leads to more conflict, more regret, and more distance. Instead, I invite you to consider something different, something quieter, yet far more powerful. Restraint. Not because you don't care, and not because you're letting them off the hook, but because you're choosing to stay in control of your own energy, your own peace of mind. Let's pause here and think about this together. How many times have you replayed a painful conversation in your head? How many nights have you lost sleep wondering what you should have said or what you should have done differently? All of that, every moment spent spiraling in hurt, that's energy leaving your body. That's your peace being chipped away. But when you choose not to react, not out of fear, but out of strength, you protect that energy. You preserve your dignity. You say to yourself, I will not let someone else's behavior control my state of mind. And that, right there, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Now, I'm not saying you should bury your feelings. Not at all. Feel them. Let them rise. Cry if you need to. Sit with the hurt, but don't let it dictate your actions. Don't let it shape your self-worth. Because no matter what your children say or don't say, you are still a whole, valuable person. Their treatment of you does not rewrite your story. And here's something else to keep in mind. Some people hurt others not out of cruelty, but out of their own unresolved pain. Your child may be struggling with their own past, their own identity, their own guilt or confusion. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps explain why. Your emotional reaction might only feed the fire. Some people poke just to see if you'll flinch. And when you don't, when you stay steady, you take away their power to hurt you. Imagine this. Your child says something sharp, hoping to trigger a response. But instead of matching their tone, you pause, you breathe, you choose silence or a calm, firm sentence that doesn't stoop to their level. Suddenly, the game changes. The energy shifts. They were expecting a fight. What they got was grace, and that unsettles them more than any argument ever could. There's an old saying, not every insult needs a response, and it's true. Not every moment of pain requires a performance. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply carry on. quietly, confidently, and without breaking your stride. I know that's not easy, especially when the pain comes from people you once held in your arms. But every time you choose stillness over struggle, every time you let peace win over pride, you grow, you evolve, you reclaim a part of yourself that might have gotten lost in the years of giving and giving and giving. You've spent so much of your life taking care of others. Maybe now it's time to take care of you, not just your body, but your heart, your soul, your sense of self. And that begins with choosing where your energy goes. Does it go into chasing apologies you may never get, into arguments that leave you feeling worse, or does it go into rebuilding your joy, your space, your spirit? There will always be people who try to pull you into their storm, but you can choose to stay in your calm. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And here's something you might not have realized yet. People don't forget the ones they couldn't shake, the ones who didn't flinch, the ones who stayed soft but unshakable. That kind of quiet strength, it leaves a mark. Maybe not right away, maybe not in the way you hoped, but one day they'll remember. They'll remember your grace, your restraint, your dignity. And maybe, just maybe, they'll grow too. So if your children have hurt you and you don't know what to do next, then try doing nothing for a moment, not out of defeat, but out of deep inner knowing. Step back, recenter, hold your power like the sacred thing it is, because the older we get, the more we realize peace is the real prize. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the silence from your children, it's the silence inside you after the pain. When the house gets too quiet, when there's no text back, when birthdays pass without a call. It's not always the big moments that break your heart. It's the small, invisible cracks. The way they rush through conversations, the way their words sting a little more than they used to, or the way they no longer ask how you're doing and actually wait for the answer. But here's the truth. Their distance does not diminish your worth. Their carelessness does not erase the years you poured into raising them. And their words, no matter how sharp, do not define the kind of parent or person you are. You see, when we get older, we start to see things more clearly. We recognize patterns. We understand that some people hurt others not because they hate them, but because they haven't learned how to love properly. They're wounded, confused, maybe even ashamed, and so they act out. And when you respond with anger or desperation, you're doing exactly what they expect. You're giving them the power they don't deserve. But what happens when you choose a different way? What happens when, instead of reacting, you redirect your time, your energy, your heart, to the parts of your life that still want your presence? The truth is, we often wait for others to change before we start living again. We sit by the phone, we hold off on joy, we put life on pause until we feel seen. But what if you stopped waiting for them and started showing up for you? Let's talk about boundaries. Not the kind you slam down in anger, but the quiet, steady kind. The ones you draw not to punish, but to protect. Because just as you once taught your children how to treat others, now you have to teach them by example how to treat you. And sometimes that starts by not answering every call if it only brings stress. Sometimes it means saying, "No, I won't tolerate that tone," or simply, "I deserve to be spoken to with respect." These small statements, said calmly, are not confrontations. They are reminders, not just to them, but to yourself, that your heart still deserves gentleness, that your time still matters, that your presence is a gift, not a burden. Now, I know this isn't always easy. It takes strength to stand quietly in the face of disrespect. It takes courage to walk away from a conversation when your voice is shaking. But every time you do, you are reclaiming a piece of yourself that you may have given away too freely in the past. You're not cutting them off. You're not giving up. You're just choosing a different kind of love, one that includes yourself. Because love without boundaries turns into exhaustion, and forgiveness without change turns into self-abandonment. You deserve better than that. And deep down, your children do too. Sometimes the only way they'll learn is through your silence. Not the kind that punishes, but the kind that says, I'm stepping back until you're ready to treat me the way I deserve. And that silence, that pause, it speaks louder than any lecture. It teaches more than any argument. It shows that you respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that steals your peace. There's also something incredibly powerful about creating joy, even in the middle of sadness. Plant flowers. Join that walking group. Call the friend you've been meaning to catch up with. Bake something just for you. Let your life expand even when others try to shrink it. Because the most unexpected healing often comes when you start nurturing parts of yourself that were never watered while you were busy taking care of everyone else. You've probably spent most of your life giving to your children, your spouse, your job, your home. Maybe now is the time to give back to yourself, not out of bitterness, not out of spite, but out of reverence, out of knowing that your time here is precious and you deserve to spend it with people and in places that honor your presence. And while you do this, while you quietly rebuild, grow, glow, don't be surprised if your children begin to notice. Not right away, but over time. They may not say it, but they'll see it. Your calm, your quiet confidence, your refusal to be rattled. And that awareness, that's the beginning of their growth too. Sometimes the greatest lesson you can give your children isn't through words, it's through your life, through how you rise after being hurt, how you choose dignity over drama, how you protect your peace like a sacred treasure. Because it is. And remember this, your emotional energy is not an endless well. Every time you spend it on anger, on regret, on rehashing old arguments, you are giving away moments of your life you can never get back. But when you protect that energy, when you direct it toward healing, purpose, connection, you are writing a new chapter, one that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval to be meaningful. You deserve peace. You deserve rest. You deserve days that are quiet, not because no one calls, but because your soul is finally calm. That kind of peace is not handed to you. It's built moment by moment, choice by choice. And it begins the day you say, I will no longer let someone else's pain become my prison. Even if your children hurt you, that doesn't mean your story ends in pain. It means your next chapter will be written by someone wiser, stronger, and more self-aware than ever before. And that someone is you. There's a quiet kind of power that comes with age, one that doesn't come from being louder, faster, or tougher, but from having seen enough life to know what truly matters. You start to realize that peace is not something you find in others. It's something you create for yourself. And sometimes you only learn that after walking through heartbreak, especially the kind that comes from your own children. When someone you love deeply hurts you, it's not just emotional, it's spiritual. It touches something sacred. And because of that, your first instinct might be to try and fix it right away. You want to mend the relationship, make things right, get back to how it used to be. But here's the thing. Not everything is meant to be fixed on your timeline. Some things and some people need space, time, and silence to grow, and so do you. Giving yourself permission to step back doesn't mean you're abandoning the relationship. It means you're prioritizing your well-being while still leaving the door open for a healthier future if and when it becomes possible. That is wisdom. That is love with boundaries. And while you're in that space, while you're not chasing, not explaining, not pleading, you get the chance to focus inward. You start tending to the parts of you that may have been overlooked for years. You begin reconnecting with the version of yourself that existed before the roles, before the responsibilities, before the wounds. There's a whole world inside you that has nothing to do with being someone's parent. The kind, creative, curious version of you who still wants to laugh, still wants to learn, still wants to feel alive. That part of you is not gone. It's just been waiting patiently for your attention. So go back to that art you used to love. Pick up that book. Take that class. Learn that song. Take yourself on walks, not to escape the pain, but to reconnect with the beauty that still surrounds you. Because healing doesn't always come in dramatic moments. Sometimes it comes in quiet choices, in showing up for yourself, even when no one else is. And one day, maybe, you'll look back and realize that the season of pain your children brought into your life became the season you finally began to prioritize your own soul. Sometimes heartbreak breaks you open in the best way, not into pieces, but into purpose. Now let's talk about something else, something that many don't want to admit, but it's important. Forgiveness. Not the kind where you excuse bad behavior or pretend the hurt didn't happen. No, real forgiveness is something much deeper. It's when you choose to release yourself from the burden of anger. It's not about them, it's about you. It's saying, I'm no longer going to carry this pain in my chest like it's part of who I am. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. It means you're done letting it consume you. It means you've decided to close the wound. Not because it wasn't deep, but because you refuse to live in pain forever. And sometimes the hardest people to forgive are the ones who never said they were sorry. But you can still do it, not for them, but for your own peace. Because here's the truth. When you forgive, when you stop carrying the bitterness, you lighten your load. You walk differently. You speak differently. You live with more space in your heart for joy. And joy, my friend, is what you were always meant to carry. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe your children constant access to your emotions if they continue to treat you with disregard. What you do owe to yourself is peace, protection, and purpose. You owe yourself the freedom to grow, even if someone you love isn't growing with you. There's a certain freedom in realizing that you don't have to wait for an apology to heal. You don't have to wait for someone else's change to start living your truth. When you understand that, you take your power back. You begin to see that your life, your energy, and your love are not things to be wasted on people who aren't ready to receive them with care. Some people will come around, others may never. But either way, your job is not to chase, explain, or prove. Your job is to live, fully, honestly, and in alignment with your own values. Let your presence become your message. Let your actions, your self-respect, and your quiet confidence speak for you, not out of pride, but out of deep, sacred self-knowing. Because at this point in your life, you've earned the right to stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown. And to anyone watching this who still feels the sting of rejection or neglect, I want you to remember something. You are not broken. You are not a burden. You are not less valuable because someone else failed to treat you with love. Their inability to show up doesn't make you unworthy. It reveals their limitations, not yours. You are still here, still standing, still growing. That alone is proof of your strength. So today, if your heart feels heavy, let this be your reminder. You don't have to carry it alone. There are people in this world, friends, neighbors, even strangers, who would be honored to know you. There are smiles yet to be exchanged, conversations yet to be had, beauty still unfolding in your story. You are more than the role you played in someone else's life. You are more than the pain they left behind. You are a whole, worthy human being, with gifts, with wisdom, with a future that is still being written. And no matter how your children behave, no matter what they do or don't say, you always have the power to choose how you respond, not with bitterness, but with boundaries, not with anger, but with clarity, not with revenge, but with resilience. Because when you rise with grace after being hurt, when you keep shining, no matter who tried to dim your light, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And that, right there, is something no one can take from you. You've carried enough. You've endured more than you ever spoke out loud. And yet here you are, still choosing to love, still hoping for healing, still searching for peace. That kind of resilience, it's not weakness, it's strength in its purest form. And maybe no one has told you this in a long time, but let me say it now. You're allowed to stop carrying the guilt for how others treat you. You are allowed to stop trying to fix things that were never yours to fix, especially when it comes to your children. Yes, you gave them life. You guided them. You made sacrifices. But their behaviour now is a reflection of their own journey, not your failure. It's time to stop measuring your worth by how much they include you, call you, praise you, or make you feel needed. Because your worth is not something they get to decide. It was never up for negotiation. And once you accept that, your whole world begins to change. You start setting different standards, not just for them, but for yourself. You stop picking up the phone out of obligation and start answering it when it feels right. You stop trying to please and start practicing presence. You stop walking on eggshells and start walking in truth. It doesn't mean you stop loving them, but it does mean you stop losing yourself in the process. You begin to protect your peace like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. And in protecting that peace, you begin to attract different experiences, even different relationships. People, sometimes not even family, begin to notice the calm strength you carry. They're drawn to it. They respect it. They learn from it. You might find yourself forming new connections, whether with neighbours in a local group or even online, that feel more nourishing than some of the relationships you've spent decades trying to salvage. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're disloyal. It means you're alive. It means you're still growing, and growth doesn't stop at 60 or 70 or 80. In fact, it often begins in a new way right then, when you stop living for others and start living in alignment with yourself. Some days will still be hard. You'll still miss them. You'll still wonder if things could have been different. That's part of the process. You're not made of stone. But even in those moments, you can choose to respond differently than you used to. Instead of spiraling into blame or sorrow, take a walk, write in a journal, sit quietly, and breathe. Remind yourself, I cannot control them. I can only control me, and I choose peace. Because here's a beautiful truth. You don't have to win every argument or get every apology or explain your pain to everyone who caused it. Sometimes the most powerful healing happens when you stop needing closure and start giving yourself permission to move forward anyway. Your life is not behind you. It's not over just because a certain role in your life has changed. You are not just someone's mother or father. You are a full, vibrant human being with stories left to write and joy still ahead. The days can still be meaningful. The mornings can still bring warmth, and the evenings can still hold peace. That's the gift of this season, the freedom to live on your terms, not dictated by who does or doesn't show up for you, but led by your own inner compass. It's not selfish, it's sacred, because the more you fill your own cup, the more you have to offer the world, not from a place of need, but from a place of wholeness. And here's something else to remember. Healing doesn't always mean reconciling. Sometimes the healing is internal, quiet, unseen. It's when you sit with your pain and decide, this will not define me. It's when you choose to keep loving, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve to live without bitterness. Maybe one day your children will come back around. Maybe they'll realize the weight of their words or the sting of their absence. But you cannot make your healing wait on that moment. You cannot press pause on your peace waiting for someone else to press play. So don't. Live now, love now, breathe now, heal now. And let your life become the kind of example that doesn't need to be explained, only witnessed. Because when others see how you've carried yourself with grace, even through disappointment, They'll remember not just what you said, but how you stood, how you didn't let pain turn you cold, how you turned wounds into wisdom. You're not alone in this. So many others walk this same quiet road. So many other parents, grandparents, caregivers, wondering where the warmth went, wondering if it will ever return. If you're one of them, hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not weak for hurting. You are not foolish for hoping. And you are not lost just because one chapter of your story has turned painful. Your life is a beautiful, evolving journey, and this moment, this part where you take back your strength and rebuild your sense of self, this is a turning point. And it's never too late to begin again. So let today be the day you reclaim your narrative. Let today be the day you stop chasing what doesn't honor you and start cultivating what does. Let today be the day you say, I matter. My peace matters. My joy matters, whether they see it or not. If you've been quietly listening and feeling a mix of emotions, maybe a little sadness, maybe hope, please know you're not alone on this journey. Your feelings are real, and your story matters. You are worthy of kindness and understanding, no matter what life has brought your way. If today's message touched you, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Sometimes simply writing a comment or reading someone else's words can remind us we're part of a caring community. Your voice may offer comfort to someone else who needs it. If you found value in this episode from Timeless Wisdom, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more thoughtful conversations and support. Here, we're committed to helping each other grow stronger, live with purpose, and find peace in every season of life. Thank you for spending this time with us. Remember, you are not defined by anyone else's actions or by the hurts of the past. You have the strength to shape your own future, one peaceful choice at a time. Take care of yourself, stay connected, and we look forward to welcoming you back next time here on Timeless Wisdom.